All right, so let's switch gears here for a little bit.
Okay.
Talk about some other young fellas.
Yes. Young fellas.
Yep. Gosh, I'm just getting older by the minute, aren't I?
We all are, Dylan.
I know.
Nobody's getting younger.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I know.
Stupid linear time. Switching gears for a minute, talking about some other young fellas. Frozen Four championships coming up.
Young fellas. Yes, sir.
Well, it's your fault. You were showing me some Johnny Cash tunes before we got started. So, what do you think about those storylines there, young fella?
In the Frozen Four?
In the Frozen Four. What storylines are you following for the Frozen Four?
I think the big one is the Michigan Wolverines. They're in the Final Four. They're in the Frozen Four. They're playing Denver in the first game, and then the winner of Minnesota and Minnesota State, Mankato.
The Rough Riders. Intercept a pass from the Rough Riders.
They're playing, and then the two teams will meet in the final. To me, Michigan is really, really intriguing. They have 13 NHL draft picks on their team. I'm not sure that I've ever... I'm sure it's happened in junior hockey before that there have been 13 draft picks on a team, but I don't know that there's ever been 13 NHL picks on a college team before.
I'm almost certain it's happened in junior hockey, and it was... who played with Patrice Bergeron? Was it that team? There was a number of... There's 5 or 6 at least that I can name.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, go on. Yeah.
So anyways, and high picks. You've got Owen Power, who the second that either the first or second game is over is going to be packing his stuff and going to Buffalo. Yeah. You've got Matty Beniers, who's at the same thing, going to be going to Seattle. You've got Kent Johnson, who might be going to Columbus. But the guy that I'm really intrigued about what the future holds for him is Luke Hughes. The 4th overall pick, the brother of Jack Hughes, the 4th overall pick of the New Jersey Devils, is a freshman at Michigan, has had a ridiculous season, like a record-breaking, epic freshman season at the University of Michigan. Yeah. So now what happens? Like we've seen in the last couple of years, guys staying for an extra year, including his brother Quinn. Mm-hmm. That those guys really benefited from staying for another year. So you've got Cale Makar, who could have come out after his first year and played in Colorado, waited a year. We're seeing possibly the Norris Trophy winner. We're seeing it with Quinn Hughes. We saw it with Zach Werenski. We've seen it with a lot of guys that stay that extra year. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, with what this kid has done this year and what he's accomplished, it'll be interesting to see which way that goes. I doubt it. Like if he turns pro, I doubt it'll be like right after this season. It might be this summer, where he signs with New Jersey and they get it all worked out. But it'll be interesting to see where that goes. There's a couple. Some of the other teams.
Sorry, before we get off of him, how much do you think of that he holds in his hands? Like as a 4th overall pick, now traditionally players don't have a ton of leverage in terms of when they want to turn pro, but this is a different story. And of course, he'd be going to play with his brother potentially. I think that New Jersey would say, they might say something like this: "We'd prefer you stay another year, but if you really think you're ready, we're not adverse to it." Right. Adverse to it. And it was the same thing with Dylan Larkin when he played. When he another University of Michigan guy, right? Dylan Larkin, when he turned pro after his first year with Detroit, I talked to Ken Holland about it when he was the GM, and he said, "Look, here's what he told Dylan Larkin and his parents." He said, "Okay, you want to sign? You want to turn pro? Fine, we're going to do it. But if you're sitting in the middle of December, looking out the window of a bus." On your way back to, out of some American Hockey League city, and it's snowing and raining and it's dark out and you're on this bus, remember you made this decision, right. So, and it didn't turn out that way. He was great as a rookie and he's been a great player ever since. Yeah. But I think that's what the message was, okay, you want to turn pro and you think you're ready? Yeah. We'd rather you stay, but if you think you're ready, we'll give you that chance. But if you're not good enough, you're not going to play for our team. You're going to play in the minors. And if that is what your fate is this year,
you have to remember that you made that decision. So I think that would be kind of the way it would be dealt with a guy like Luke Hughes. But, maybe Luke Hughes is sitting there thinking, no, my brother did 2 years. And like there would be zero downside to him staying in Michigan for another year. Zero.
Yeah.
Like he would just dominate. He'd have a chance to play in the World Juniors again. It would be, there would be zero downside to it, but it'd be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah. OHL Cup is coming to my hometown, your adopted hometown this year.
Yeah.
What a shock that the OHL Cup would come and be hosted by the GTHL.
It always is. It's hosted by the OHL. It's always in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's always in Toronto. Yeah.
Little subtle humor, but it might have gone a little over your head, but
no. See, I got it. Here's what I'll tell you. I'll tell you what my kids used to say when I'd say dad jokes. Yeah, we get it, Dad. It's just not funny.
Oh no. I'm now the dad in that.
Ooh.
Oh. You know what? Just as a quick aside, my daughter from about 8 months old, figured out what my punchlines sound like and would laugh at the end of my punchlines.
That's a good kid.
No way that she could have understood the joke.
Yeah.
But she figured out my setup punchline and she would laugh. And so I tell Tanya a joke, my wife Tanya, and she'd like roll her eyes and then Taylor would just burst out laughing.
Or maybe she's just on like another plane of like
humor, rule us all one day. Yeah. So the OHL Cup is coming. It's starting today, actually.
It actually, the playing games were yesterday. It actually there have already been games today. Yeah. There have been a couple of games already.
Which is March 30th. What storylines are you following in this OHL Cup?
Well, this one's pretty clear. There are 3 players that are going to be playing in this tournament that have applied for exceptional player status with Hockey Canada, which just to give people an idea of what that is, you have to be 16 years old to play major junior hockey. Yep. These players are all playing a year up as under 16s.
Yeah.
And they would like to play in the OHL next year as 15-year-olds. Right. So I mean, it's what Connor Bedard did. It's what Connor McDavid did. It's what John Tavares did.
Yeah.
It's what Joe Veleno did. It's that thing. So
some of them work out. Some of them don't.
Most of them work out. The only one that's really been a complete bust was Sean Day.
Right.
Yeah. But the rest of them have been either pretty good or very, very good.
Right.
So anyway, that's where this is going. Like these 3 kids, they've all applied. Usually they make up their minds before the OHL Cup, but I think with, the pandemic and everything, they want to see these kids a little more before they make this decision. But there's 3 kids. One is a kid by the name of Ryan Rubrek. Okay. He's a 14-year-old kid. He doesn't turn 15 until late September. He's like 6'2", 190, skill, meanness, like Anze Kopitar type of guy. Plays for the London Junior Knights, who actually lost their first game this morning, but he had a goal. So he's one of them. The other 2 play for the Mississauga Senators. One's a kid by the name of Michael Misa, a dynamic, speedy centerman who can really create it's really weird because Mississauga they were the best team in Ontario for in this age group forever. Yeah. And then they crapped out in the GTHL playoffs, the Toronto playoffs. So they had to actually play a wild card game to get into the OHL Cup.
Right.
And they did yesterday and they won like 9-2. And so you've got this guy, you've got Michael Misa, and you've got another guy by the name of William Moore, who's a great big power forward guy, one of these guys that's really good in tight and from the hash marks. They all, from what I understand, they all could probably play in the OHL next year.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if more than one of them does. I wouldn't be surprised if none of them do. Hockey Canada's never picked more than one. You know, and so I wouldn't expect that they'll pick more than one now. But they might pick none. But these kids are all, they're all like very, very good players, and could all be top picks in major junior hockey and play in the OHL next year.
The criteria for OHL exceptional status, or CHL exceptional status, I should say,
right,
is very specific. And I think that this is what sometimes gets lost in the conversation about exceptional status, is that the criteria is not, can you do it? The criteria is, do you have absolutely nothing more to gain by not doing it?
Right. And are you able to, do you have the maturity to be able to handle this?
Right, of course, yeah.
Moving to Erie or wherever it is that you're going, playing for a bad team, getting hit a lot, that kind of stuff, like, and dealing with, some trials and tribulations along the way. They have a separate panel that does all this stuff, and they put them through all kinds of psychological testing. They watch them play, they, everything. So, they're probably going to get it right most times.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see which one they pick, if anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've just always thought that it sometimes gets lost in the shuffle because, like you said, all three of them could probably play in the OHL next year. Right. But can they prove that they have nothing more to gain by playing a level down? Well,
they're not going to play. They're not going to play under 16 next year.
No.
They do have, from what I understand, and I've only seen snippets of these kids. I've seen them play a couple of times.
Yeah.
But in talking to scouts and agents, they don't have anything to gain by playing under 16 again.
Yeah.
So what they'll end up doing is they'll go to Shattuck St. Mary's or something,
right,
a prep school, something like that, and then they'll go to the OHL next year, because really there's just, there's no point in them racking up these enormous numbers. I mean, Ryan Rubrick's a 14-year-old kid playing against kids who are 15 and almost 16, and he had like 79 points in 30 games. So I'm not sure there's a lot to be gained by him going back and now, being at the same age as a lot of those kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shall we move on? Mm-hmm. We shall then.
We shall.